Now, if you've been burned 4 times in a row, who are you likely to become in terms of your politics? You start getting pretty angry.
Yeah.
That's what led to, a lot of radicalization for a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, in some ways, I almost welcome it at this point because, people need to see just exactly how disgusting so many of these politicians are. I can even say this on a personal level. I know some of the people who are involved, in the government and all this. And you promised that you would release everything. You promised transparency. You literally ran on this. There's tape after tape of Trump, JD, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and the Attorney General, all 5 on camera, promising not only transparency, but basically saying that there is a broader conspiracy. We've seen all of this other information.
The vanguard will be there, sir.
We have a lot of stuff to talk about today as well. Zach, I don't know if you were watching any breaking points this morning, but I really enjoyed their coverage of the Trump Epstein debacle, the MAGA revolt against Trump over this specific issue. And Saagar really added into that chorus, of pissed off Trump voters, people that are just at the end of their rope. And with Saagar, it's not that he's just exasperated with Trump, but also his good friend JD Vance, someone who he, consistently referred to as his friend, had to disclose it about 100 times during the lead up to this election. I do know that guy who's on one of the tickets, the one that I'm conveniently voting for and telling everyone in my audience reasons to vote for. So it's created a bit of an awkward dynamic, one we even discussed with Krystal on our show. And it's been interesting to see how Saagar talks about the Trump administration now that they're actually in power, including JD Vance, given the fact that, again, they're friends, not just like, oh, we bumped into each other at, Tucker Carlson's studio one time or something like that. No, like Saagar actually considered, maybe still considers, but I doubt it. I think at this point, it's pretty fair to call it a past tense considered, JD Vance to be his friend. And I think that makes what we're going to take a look at in a second, Zach, all the more interesting and compelling, and a real sign that, at least some people who voted for Trump, at least some people in MAGA, they are genuinely pissed and they're embarrassed.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I have a fuckload of disagreements with Saagar Enjeti when it comes to policy. But the one thing I've always given the guy is you may be the only person in conservative media I've ever seen that I genuinely think believes everything he says. I think he's an honest guy, even when I think he's dead wrong about 90% of issues, maybe 80% of issues, whatever. We do have some overlap, but I think that this is an example of that. This is a dude who doesn't take any corporate money. He doesn't have anybody who's looking over his shoulder. He doesn't have a boss. Him and Krystal run the fucking show. Obviously, they have other people that work with them and, make a tremendous impact, but it's not like they're Saagar's boss, right? So he has just his audience and he has just his own political compass. And I think that the fact that he's willing to call out somebody he considers a close friend is reflective of the fact that he at least believes in his warped worldview.
Yeah. He at least seems honest and consistent in his ideology, unlike some of the other people who we talk about on this channel and dunk on, right? At least Saagar, will fess up to it when he's wrong. He'll be totally honest and transparent about the way he's thinking and his thought process and evolution. So, not that I don't have tons of hardcore disagreements with the guy, but I agree with you, Zach. He's one of the more honest conservatives in the media space, and his ideology is at least consistent. He's at least transparent about that. So I agree with you there. And I really do think that, Saagar had kind of already like turned on Trump a while ago. It didn't really seem to me like Saagar was all that into Trump, but he still got down with Trump again, like so many conservatives. They all found a reason to, despite like swearing him off mere years ago. I think one of those big reasons for Saagar was JD Vance. He was like, you know what? I may have lost trust in Trump broadly. There were a number of issues that I remember Saagar complaining about during the first Trump term. But when Trump picked Vance, again, his friend Vance, to join the ticket in the administration, I think Saagar was like, oh, okay, well, I might not trust Trump, but I do trust JD Vance. And if Trump is picking him to join the administration, that means he's serious about being America first this time. I really think that might have contributed to some of Saagar's delusion going into this past election.
The entire right-wing media apparatus just going full in on Donald Trump. There was really no other option for Saagar if he wanted to represent the right-wing flank. I think that he got swept up in the chorus of a lot of his peers, even if now he's breaking away from it.
Yeah, 100%. But I do think that the JD Vance thing certainly helped.
For sure. No doubt about it.
Because, people before JD Vance got picked, they're like, he's a real America first conservative, all this bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like a real, fucking he's a Catholic and all this kind of crap, right? So we'll see, how Saagar's changed his tune now. Not, by the way, not that Saagar ever cared about the Catholicism thing. In fact, Saagar's always been, pretty atheist, pretty secular as far as what he, talks about on breaking points. He doesn't really seem to have his ideology motivated by religion at all, unlike a lot of the people who he's in the movement with, which is interesting.
Yeah, he has the traditional values that you associate with a lot of Christian conservatives, but he does not have the Christian faith behind it. He's just more of a traditional guy, I guess, or an old school kind of a guy. I don't know. That would be a really polite way to put it.
Yeah, definitely traditional. I would say. But either way, let's take a look at this because there was like 3 videos on Epstein this morning. I recommend watching them all on the Breaking Points channel. They're all really good, interesting listens. But I was able to distill some of the comments specifically about JD into this clip for all of you guys. And again, pretty interesting to see Saagar at the end of his rope here.
Yeah, definitely.
Got burned twice, 2016, 2020, and then became Trump bros. Now, if you've been burned 4 times in a row, who are you likely to become in terms of your politics? You're going to start getting pretty angry.
Yeah.
That's what led to, a lot of radicalization for a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, in some ways, I almost welcome it at this point because, people need to see just exactly how disgusting so many of these politicians are. I can even say this on a personal level. I know some of the people who are involved, in the government and all this, and then just to watch it, twist and turn into something that, it's not even about promises from a TV screen. I'm talking about years of conversation and all these other things about what a future government looks like and the plan and what and all that. And then you come out with this shit and you're like, oh, this is a tough pill.
And I mean, it's hard not to sympathize a little bit. I mean, it's one thing to believe lies from a politician on the TV, like Saagar alluded to. They all fucking lie. It's another thing to be personally lied to year after year, face to face from someone you considered to be a friend. You know what I'm saying? It'd be like if somehow like Griffin got a job in government and then he started like changing his tune on Israel and was like, actually, I now support Zionism. We'd be like, what? We literally talked with you for fucking so many times.
No, that's a great analogy. And it would be really a huge bummer, right? You have to imagine that would change the way you view your homie, right? You try as a person who's normal and sane to be like, okay, I have this bond with this person. Like, let's talk it out. Like, this is their job. But when you're the vice president of the United States and the stakes are this high, what are you supposed to do? You're Saagar Enjeti. You have to go in front of your audience and be honest. So you're going to go and talk a bunch of shit on your friend and you're going to be extra pissed off about it because he lied to your fucking face. So it is personal and it's also political and it's also professional because this is your job. Yep. So you really, I mean, Saagar's cutting to the bone here. He was like, bro, in back rooms when we were sitting around the table dreaming up the government, like, it's crazy. It sounds like they were decently good friends. Like, could you imagine if one of us got into the government and we started playing like, Joe Manchin ball? Like, you know what I mean? That would be ridiculous.
Zach goes full Christian cinema.
To swallow. It makes you want to become a Zohran Mamdani supporter. Or it makes you want to like really look at some radical shit now in the future. That's just me personally. And I'm,
So yeah, Saagar declares that he's now flirting with Zohran Mamdani. Clearly taking a page out of that, Andrew Schultz, right, who said that the other day? He was like, I'm thinking about fucking Zohran. At least he's actually America first. One of the craziest, kind of unintended or unexpected consequence of this Epstein fallout with Trump is it seems like some of these red-pilled people are like getting blue-pilled or they're like getting like socialist-pilled or something.
I mean, it's the inversion of the Bernie to Trump pipeline, right? When people felt like they got totally hosed in the Democratic primary in 2016, a lot of people went and said, fuck it, I'm either disenfranchising myself or, you know what, fine, let's just burn the system down. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Now, that wasn't the analysis that I offered, right? That wasn't something Gavin and I did. We did not go for Donald Trump, but there was that backlash. There was that recoil. I think we're getting it in the opposite direction, right? The Mamdani mania is it taking full effect right now. People are like, wait, this is an option. This guy does care about New York. He wants to do things for actual New Yorkers, and the Democrats are doing it. Like this guy won.
He's not owned by a foreign government.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so crazy to see, but I'm glad to see it.
Shit now in the future. That's just me personally, and I'm doing okay. But here we also have Scott Adams. We could put this up there on the screen. He says it must be juicy and dangerous stuff in those files, but I don't feel the need to be a backseat driver on this topic. For leaders, I trust that it's time to let it go. They want what is best for America, and they have their reasons. I don't need to check their work.
Not in a cult, when you're definitely not in a cult.
That is such let's just weigh on that for a second, because this is very predominant amongst MAGA. During Iran and now during this, it's about trusting the plan. It's about trusting Donald Trump. Even JD is like, Trump has earned the trust on this issue, and it's like, no, he's not. And you promised that you would release everything. You promised transparency. You literally ran on this. There's tape after tape.
Also, the Access Hollywood tape, we know that this guy says he does sexual assault, all right? We've had him, he lost the civil case against E. Jean Carroll, right? Which I know Saagar doesn't put any stake in, but that's another example for the American public. This dude literally is on tape from Access Hollywood leak saying we grab him by the pussy.
And he bragged about walking in on the girls' changing rooms at the underage pageants he ran. Like, literally, that's not a conspiracy. There's fucking evidence of it.
Yeah, 100%. So.
Of Trump, JD, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and the Attorney General, all 5 on camera, promising not only transparency, but basically saying that there is a broader conspiracy. We've seen all of this other information.
Yeah. So referring to JD specifically, almost more times than Trump himself, he really seems to want to drive that point home. They're like, trust me, guys, I had reasons for, pushing this bullshit on you. So I feel embarrassed now, but he was telling me behind closed doors to my face. I didn't think he was capable of this level of dishonesty, essentially. And it really does kind of seem like that. It seems like Saagar's whole kind of like understanding of the ideological movement he's a part of has been a little bit shaken by this, because it's like literally as soon as these people get into power, not even fucking a year later after getting into power, they've changed their tune completely.
6 months.
Yeah. And obviously Saagar, he's clearly was friends with JD Vance, but I'm sure he's talked to and been very friendly with all these people, from Kash Patel to Dan Bongino, all of them. So he probably is just like, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, there's only one thing left for Saagar to do if he wants to maintain his credibility as a commentator. If he wants to be a guy that's like, you know what? I believed what I said. I am America first. I love my country. I love being an American. I don't like going to Europe. I don't want to go to Europe. I never want to do anything but be an American and isolate this country. But the best option that I have if I'm an America first person is to vote for the socialist candidates, right? Because while they might not have overlap with me when it comes to my cultural choices, right? Like, oh, I believe in, heterosexual marriage. I believe in, whatever, no smoking weed, whatever. They might have fringe cultural disagreements with you, and you're free to practice whatever cultural norms you'd like in your own personal life. They just won't be, replicated or established and ruled in government. But if I look at the other long list of things that if I'm Saagar Enjeti that I care about, how about affordable rent? How about having home ownership? How about making buses cheaper so people can get to work? How about taking care of the environment so my kids have a place to grow up? How about taking a little bit of control back from the billionaire class and giving it to the working class? These are all things that will make America a stronger country, right? These are all things that are going to uplift everyone and make us better off. So if I'm really being honest as Saagar, I think the only thing for him to do is to talk about how, hey, right now the DSA endorsed candidates are the only one who are even close to America first in any capacity, regardless of our cultural norms and disagreements.
Yeah. I imagine that issues like immigration, for example, which Saagar still really seems to care about to an insane extent. He was even defending alligator Alcatraz.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
So it's like, that's the annoying thing about a lot of these right-wing populists. It's like, will they give up that in order to actually vote the right way? Probably not. It depends on who's, on the ballot, I guess. But, and it's hard to give these guys too much credit, because obviously we were fucking yelling about this shit right before the election, saying this dude was fucking best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. It's not a fucking conspiracy to say that. It was printed in tabloids and newspapers and magazines and talked about and photographed. Like, he was literally best fucking friends with Jeffrey Epstein, flew on the plane a number of times.
Not only that, Jeffrey Epstein audio leaked talking to Michael Wolff saying I was his best friend. Okay. Yeah. Pretty inarguable at that point, if we're being totally real. So I think that there does have to be some leeway. And I think that if Saagar is going to basically say, I don't care about anything over immigration, I'm going to become a single issue voter, then that's also poor analysis, right? And if you look at it, you're like, okay, what are some other ways that we could alleviate the problems that I am attributing to immigration, right? Well, we could start bringing some infrastructure back to this country. right? We could start manufacturing back to this country. We could reinvest in the infrastructure that we already have and build better infrastructure, right? We could do all of these things that are going to require manual labor. It's going to require jobs. It's going to require putting people to work in mass, alleviating the unemployment problems that you, as Saagar Enjeti, would associate with mass immigration. So I think that there is a pathway. You know, maybe we'll never win over the Saagars, but I think there is a pathway to win over those voters who were fooled by the America First rhetoric by giving them an answer that is always, hey, this is how we can solve the problem with socialism instead of prejudice and giving more money to billionaires.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The vanguard will be there, sir. The vanguard will be there, sir. The vanguard will be there, sir. The vanguard will be there. Be there.